four cornerstones of our business are comfort, fit, balance, and craftsmanship. So what is it about our saddles that makes them different? What is it about them that makes your horse or mule really want to move out? For starters, our saddles are designed for the moving horse or mule's back. Your saddle should invite him to collect and lift his back so he can properly carry your weight. If your saddle is causing pressure points, your horse or mule will usually hollow his back in an effort to duck away from the pressure. Long term, this can cause all kinds of back problems. After some early experimentation, my dad knew for hardcore riding, like competitive trail and endurance, where competitions lasted anywhere from 25 to 100 miles in a day, that he needed to spread the rider's weight out over the entire length of the horse's rib cage. While flexible and treeless saddles have their uses, they're not geared towards distance riding. The more often you ride, the harder you ride, the faster you ride, and the higher the body weight of the rider, the more you need to think about weight dispersion. So he started researching the shoes that marathon runners use. He wanted to know how running shoe manufacturers were addressing the problem of shock absorption. What he found that all high-end running shoes had in common was the shock-absorbing layer of foam they use. Now this high-tech foam has two properties that make it perfect for putting on the bottom of a saddle. The first is it gives instantly to pressure points. This is perfect for the shoulder area. As the shoulder blades rotate under the front of the saddle, this foam allows the horse or mule to comfortably use his full range of motion, giving him the ability to really stride out. The second property is the foam's ability to disperse weight over a broad area. When weight is applied over a wide area, the foam doesn't cave in. It spreads out the weight, lowering the pounds per square inch on the rib cage. We cover this with premium bark tan shearling. Look how all this gives. The sheepskin by itself is soft, but with the addition of the immediate recovery foam, it makes it so nice for your horse or mule's back to work. Lastly, there is a nice wide spinal channel down the middle to make sure no pressure touches the spine. The use of a rigid tree to spread out the rider's weight, along with the high-tech foam to follow the changes in the moving horse or mule's back, covered with the premium bark tan shearling, and combining this all with a nice wide spinal channel is the perfect way to achieve maximum comfort for your horse or mule, which allows him the freedom of movement needed for maximum performance. When fitting your horse or mule, we have to address two components of their rib cage. The first is the rock, which is the overall front to back curvature of the rib cage. We also need to address the twist, which is the change in angle from steeper in front to flatter in back. The better the overall contact, the happier the animal. Now, our wither tracing can be useful in determining the proper tree to use as a starting point. It really doesn't give you much information about how the back develops. A wither tracing gives you about 2 inches of usable information here in the front. If all we were doing was sizing these two horses with a wither tracing, we'd probably pick the same tree. They're very similar here in the front. But take a look in back. The rock and twist is vastly different. The tree that fit this horse would absolutely not fit this horse and vice versa. We've been using these EQUUImeasure kits since 2003 as a way of fitting long distance. With these EQUUImeasure kits, we have an exact 3D model of the rib cage we're fitting in the shop. One of these is included with every custom saddle that we build. At the end of the DVD, we'll show you in detail how to make a mold. The mold is taken at the back edge of the shoulder blade. We use this as a reference point. The tree of any saddle should sit right behind the shoulder blade, never on top of it. The first couple of inches of the mold tell us what type of tree we need to use as a starting point. What we look for here is clearance over the wither, and that the angle at the front of the bars are as close as possible to the angle of the rib cage where contact starts. Once we pick the tree, we turn it upside down and place the mold in the tree, lining it up with the front of the tree. We can easily see where we have good contact and what areas need some work. By skiving in leather, we can change the rock and twist of the bars to conform to the animal. In addition to the rock and the twist of the bars, we also have to make sure there is enough flare in the front of the tree to allow for free movement of the shoulder. When we fit a tree for any of the gated breeds, we have to put even more flare in the front than we do for non-gated breeds. This is to accommodate the very animated way their shoulders move. We also need to flare the bars in the back of the tree. As the hips alternately rise and fall, there has to be room to accommodate for that motion as well. Our typical customer has been through 2 to 5 saddles that they may have picked up at the local tack shop. Now, the problem with mass-produced saddles is they're built on averages. They may have 3 or 4 different widths, which is great for matching a wither tracing to get the right starting point, but after that it's all built on averages. So they decide that the average horse is this high, has this much twist and this much rock, and if your horse falls outside of the realm of average for that manufacturer, that's where the problem starts. In addition to this, there's no standard from tree manufacturer to tree manufacturer. You could have 4 different trees here from 4 different manufacturers, all called semi-quarter horse trees, and each one of them would have different measurements for gullet height, gullet width, rock, and twist. There is no standard. Now, a few of our customers have told a story of they've had a saddle for 5 or 6 years that worked great. It was built on semi-quarter horse bars, say, and they decide they're going to go get a new saddle. It's built by a different manufacturer. They get semi-quarter horse bars and they run into problem. You would hope that you could stay with even the same bar type and be able to fit your horse, but absolutely that is not the case. At some point, these people start to think, I have a hard-to-fit horse or mule. But the truth is, they've just never been fit properly to begin with. By using the EQUUImeasure Kit, we can take a standard tree, and by layering the bars with leather and sculpting that leather, we can add or remove some of the rock. We can add or remove twist. The EQUUImeasure tells us what the animal needs. By fitting this way, at any time we can strip off the work we have previously done, and we can readjust the bottom for a horse or mule that hasn't finished growing yet, or an older animal whose top line is starting to drop. Another advantage is, if you get a new horse or mule, we can readjust the bottom for the new animal as long as you stay within the same general body type that the tree was originally designed for. Okay, now for the rider. Because my dad rode at the highest level of his sport for over 30 years, he learned firsthand what works in a saddle and what doesn't. Some of the design features in our saddles, other companies don't even consider. For instance, our seats are designed gender specific and to your individual measurements. We're going to get your height and your weight, your inseam, your hips, thighs, and the distance between your seat bones. These measurements translate into how we address the design of each area of the seat. Your height and your weight are going to tell us approximately what size seat you're going to be comfortable in. Now, personal preference is also going to play into this. Some riders prefer a little bit shorter seat, others prefer a little bit more operating room. Terrain can also come into the decision. If you do a lot of mountain riding where you're going up and down hills a lot, it helps to have a little bit more open seat so you can adjust your position to help your horse up the hill or down the hills. Your seat bone measurement is going to tell us how wide of a seat you need for proper support. Now, traditionally, saddle making has been a male-dominated industry, and you'll have a male saddle maker design a saddle seat and he'll get in and go, boy, this feels perfect. This is the best job I ever done. His wife will come along and get in that same saddle and go, it's okay, but something's off here. I don't know what it is exactly. And he'll go, what are you talking about? Get back in there and go, this seat is perfect. And what's going on there is the differences between the male and female pelvic girdle. The average distance between men's seat bone is usually 3.5 to 5 inches. For women, it's 4 to 6.5 inches. When a woman sits in a saddle designed for a guy, her seat bones contact the seat where it's already falling away to allow the thigh to pass over. She needs support farther out. Another innovation of my father's was to put pear-shaped seat bone depressions right in the tree to cup your seat bones and allow you to sit deeper in the seat. Another difference is the pubic arch in a woman is lower in the front than a man's. This means that the rise of the seat from the lowest point forwards has to be less, or she will be constantly running into the front of the seat with her pubic bone. Your thigh measurement tells us how much room you need between the bottom of the pommel or the swell and the bottom of the cantle. Another gender consideration is how the thigh bone of a woman comes out of the pelvis versus a man's. It's slightly farther forward and it angles in towards the knee, which means we have to sculpt the thigh area out at a more forward angle to accommodate for the difference. Generally speaking, a guy can have his leg straighter down the side of the saddle and be comfortable, where a woman's leg is going to need to be angled a bit more forwards to be comfortable. This sculpting out of the thigh area is important to position you so that you can ride with better balance. Now the inseam measurement is going to tell us what size fender system you need to be in. A tall person in a regular size fender system is not going to have enough coverage for the longer leg and may not even have enough adjustment to make them long enough to be comfortable. On the other end of the spectrum is a shorter rider whose fender is too big for his leg, and even if there is enough adjustment, you end up with the excess strap under your leg, which will sooner or later start to bug the heck out of you. Another feature is the stirrup leathers are also recessed, so they become part of the seat. There is an absolutely smooth transition where your thigh lays, so the fender strap can't chafe you. In addition, they are free swinging to allow you to position your leg where you need it for going up and down hills. Another thing my dad came up with is what he called the jean seam channel. After the seat is shaped, we cover it with the same high-tech foam we used in the skirts and put a groove up the center. Similar to the seats for bicycles, this provides a relief area for the seam in the riding pants to lay. This gives you the same shock-absorbing comfort that we give to the horse. Although we offer all different types of stirrups, the ones that come standard on our trail saddles are Easy Ride stirrups. They were designed for distance riding and have a very deep tread so your weight is spread out over more area on the bottom of your foot. They also have a thick, shock-absorbing pad for cushion comfort. The last unique innovation of my dad's I want to talk about is our bulkless English rigging. We do offer 3 different types of rigging, but if you're out there putting on the miles, then this is really the way to go. This is a double billet system similar to how a dressage saddle is rigged. By using longer billets, you can use a shorter cinch which keeps the buckles under the barrel of the horse or mule and any of the excess bulk out from under your leg. This also enables the free swinging fender to move back and forth without catching on any of the rigging. A lot of times on a Western rigging, the offside billet and the latigo will catch on the fender strap. Notice also the billets are angled up towards the center of the seat. They don't pull straight down like a Western rigging, which puts a lot of pressure right behind the shoulder blade. It alleviates the pressure there while allowing you to ride without a flank cinch. So what it comes down to is being very specific about the individual needs of the rider. When you go into a tack shop, you're getting a saddle made for average Joe horsemen and whatever they deem that to be. And everybody's different. Everybody's different, and we really try to take you as an individual and design the seat that will keep you as comfortable as your horse or mule.
I did the Tevis Cup, and after 100 miles, 22 and a half hours in the saddle, I did not have a single saddle sore, rub mark. You know, I sat there in Auburn the next morning watching everyone else lick their wounds while I felt like $1,000,000.